Hello, and welcome to this episode of Security Square, our cybersecurity focused series featuring analyst insights, expert guests, and the latest news and happenings across the security sector. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, principal analyst here at Kramer&Co Research. I'm joined today by fellow analyst, engineer, brilliant friend, Joe Peterson. Joe, welcome.
Thanks.
Glad to have you. So today we are going to recap AWS reInvent 2024 security announcements and news relating to enhancements and updates that kind of caught our attention. And I will tell you that we intended to do this update a couple of days before Christmas, and I managed to come up with a case of laryngitis that made talking a little bit difficult. So here we are. Before we dive into some of the updates and announcements coming out of reInvent related to security, I want to talk a little bit about the AWS well-architected framework. So this was introduced by AWS in about 2015, and this framework was designed to help businesses ensure a consistent approach to cloud architecture and provide best practices, design principles, and key concepts for designing and running workloads in the cloud. The 5 pillars of this framework are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance, efficiency, and cost optimization. So when you fast forward to 2024, AWS security tools and services have grown, of course, becoming more sophisticated in their approach to dealing with a much more complex cloud and security landscape. And, you might be surprised to learn that AWS offers over 300 security, compliance, and governance services and features. No small number, right? So to get this conversation started, we're going to recap some of the top security tools offered by AWS. I'm going to cover a couple and have you tackle the rest, Joe. So I'm going to start with AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. AWS's IAM solution is a scalable service that allows users to manage user identities and permission. It includes features like user management, access control policies, and MFA. Amazon GuardDuty is a threat detection service that monitors AWS accounts and workloads for suspicious activities and logins. GuardDuty uses machine learning techniques, anomaly detection, and integrated threat intelligence to help identify abnormal activity.
It sure does. And I'm going to jump in here with AWS CloudTrail, which allows users to monitor and record account activity across all AWS accounts. CloudTrail can help improve overall security posture and provide audit functionality for proof of compliance. A couple others, AWS Config. AWS Config allows users to monitor and record AWS resource configuration, set rule sets, receive notifications when those rule sets are broken. And last but not least, of the ones we'll touch on today is Amazon Inspector. Inspector is an automated vulnerability management service that scans Amazon EC2 instances for software vulnerabilities and unintended network exposure. Now we're going to talk a little bit about AWS security announcements pre-reInvent. So there were some, right?
There were a lot.
Yeah, 1 or 2, right? So I guess that one of the many exciting things about covering reInvent are the announcements. They're always going to be good. They're going to be juicy. And then particularly the security announcements that happen in the week or 2 leading up to reInvent. Yeah. So they tease them out there and then they announce them full on at the conference. So let's start with the news on security incident response front first. On December 1st, AWS released AWS Security Incident Response. And this is a service that helps users prepare for and respond to and recover from security incidents. And it can help with incidents like data breaches, ransomware attacks, account takeovers. The goal of an IR response or incident response in general is to contain the incident scope, to reduce the risk to data and systems, and to return affected systems and data to an operational state as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I was glad to see this, Joe, especially since business resilience and business continuity are I'm going to say finally top of mind for business leaders and security teams today. I think that this is, I've seen a focus on business resilience and continuity really rise to the
Mhm.
top these days. And I'm sure you have as well. It is a prime business concern. And, here's why AWS Security Incident Response capabilities can really matter to a security team. It has triaging capabilities. AWS Security Incident Response can triage findings and then escalate security events. It can provide case management assistant, quickly allowing you to prioritize cases that need your immediate attention, which then, this directs the attention of the I team exactly where it's needed, when it's needed. And then it also provides guidance through the entire incident lifecycle. And I think this is another attractive benefit. AWS Security Incident Response, when I say the entire incident lifecycle, I mean from detection to recovery. And this service includes 24/7 access to this AWS CERT. And this dedicated group of security experts has specialized knowledge that can help customers respond to and recover from security incidents. So I think that's extremely important. Um, Incident Response also automates the triage and investigation of security findings from Amazon GuardDuty, which is very cool, and integrated third-party detection tools through the AWS Security Hub. And I will note that AWS plans to expand the cross-product capabilities of security incident response to other AWS products in the future, which I think is really, really good news.
It is good news. And let me stop a second. One of the things that I thought was super cool when you and I had a chance to sit down with the product manager and actually get a briefing about this
Right.
was the ability of this tool to prioritize the importance of a particular security incident, right? So it's not just taking them all and just handing them to you and say, hey, here's all your security incidents. Have a nice day. And you sort of feel like, gee, it's 8:05. I just need to go home because it's too much, right?
Well,
It's
and being buried by alerts is
right.
a problem. So solving for that is what I think you're going to touch on here.
Well, right. It's just not even just solving for it, but telling you, yeah, this one's really bad, and you
Yeah,
need to go take care of this one like right now, or like
right.
you're not going to have a job tomorrow, and that sort of thing. And I think it does a couple things. Not only does it help you set a course and prioritize, but I think it's a great way to teach young engineers about what's important and what's not,
Yeah,
right? And so it's a great way to help them sort of sort out, yeah, this is important and this is why, instead
yeah,
of trying to make them figure it out, right? But some of the ways the security can get the most out of this service is to conduct tabletop exercises and simulations to replicate potential scenarios. And this enhances the team's ability overall to respond more rapidly and recover more effectively.
right.
So they get to practice procedures, they get to
Yeah,
identify gaps, they get to improve. This is like almost like red teaming,
yeah.
kind of, it's just a great way for a team to get some practice, right? Because
Right.
instead of just dropping an incident on them and expecting that everybody's going to know what they're supposed to do.
Right. Well, Joe, and to your point about training young engineers, as you know, I have twins who are freshmen in college, and so I'm a part of a lot of parent conversations about
Mhm.
kids, major fields of study and getting ready to graduate, computer science or cybersecurity focused people getting ready to graduate, or new graduates struggling to find jobs and all that sort of thing. And the reality of it is, we have highly skilled talent over here, and we have this pool of young talent who, of course, we also have young engineers already in the workforce. And then we have this other pool of young talent trying to come into the workforce. So things like this that allow you to replicate scenarios and do simulations and do those tabletop exercises and all of those sorts of things, you bring the whole team up, and I think that's incredibly valuable here.
It is. It is. And I mean, we could talk long time about the business value of a tabletop,
Yeah,
right? Just
absolutely.
right, we could. But let's move on to AWS news, which is what we're here for today. Um, And I'm going to talk about Amazon GuardDuty. Again, we got to sit down with the product manager here,
Yeah,
right? It was so cool. And this is their extended threat protection.
right.
So they've expanded GuardDuty threat protection capabilities to include new AI ML capabilities that actually correlate security signals to identify active attack sequences in the AWS environment. And this allows the platform to track sequential actions taken by adversaries. So you're not sort of operating in a vacuum here.
Right.
You're starting to see patterns form, right? So there might be a privilege discovery followed by an API manipulation, and they might, ice that cake with data exfiltration. Right? Of course, I've got to bring food into the mix, but GuardDuty can not only illustrate it can not only just illustrate the attack sequence findings, but then it's going to place a severity rating on them,
Right.
which
Going
is
back to helping prioritize where you pay
yeah,
attention. Yeah.
yep. And this finds a natural language summary of the threat's nature and significance.
Yeah.
So back to the newer person coming in, it's going to say something to them in English.
Yeah.
That's what that's really telling us, right? It's not going to say it in security gobbledygook, which it's going to say it back to them in English. And then activities are mapped to tactics and techniques from the MITRE attack framework. And the platform offers descriptive remediation recommendations based on AWS best practices. So you don't have these open S3 buckets
Right.
because somebody tells you how to fix the S3 bucket, right? It's not just hanging out there flapping in the breeze.
Well, great to see, Joe. Extended threat detection covers threat scenarios that involve compromises related to AWS credentials misuse. Of course, this is a huge threat vector. We know this. We talk about this often. And data compromise attempts in customers' AWS accounts. And because of the nature of these threat scenarios, GuardDuty considers all attack sequence finding types as critical. And Joe, you mentioned that we had an opportunity to sit down with Ryan Holland, who's the GM of GuardDuty, and he shared a cool bit of information that we wanted to pass along. And so when you enable Amazon GuardDuty in your account in a specific AWS region, extended threat detection is also enabled by default. You don't have to turn it on, it's already on. So I think that's really amazing. And even better, there's no additional cost associated with the usage of extended threat detection. By default, it correlates events across all foundational data sources. And when you enable more GuardDuty protection plans, such as S3 protection, this then will open additional types of attack sequence detections by then widening the range of event sources. So this will potentially help with a more comprehensive threat analysis and of course, allow for better detection of attack sequences. So really exciting stuff.
It is exciting stuff. And I just need to know, is it bad that you and I are so excited about some of
Now,
these? I know, seriously, I know. And I'm gonna dive right in to the, further into the geek weeds here because I want to touch now on AWS declarative policies. Okay.
okay, sure.
Imagine if for a minute, if you're able to declare and enforce desired configuration for a given AWS service at scale across your organization with just a click or command. Yeah, exciting because stuff was siloed before. I mean, you could do it, but you'd have to do it for this product and then you'd have to go and do it for that product. Nope, not anymore. That's right.
Love it.
Self-service across the footprint. And a couple things stand out to me here. For clients that operate in heavily regulated environments, it's super common for them to utilize SCP policy exclusions to restrict actions and configuration rules to detect violations. However, they usually have to create an exception for every new API or feature. Again, this takes skill and knowledge.
Yeah.
And
And
maybe
time. And
and time,
time.
right? And time. Yep. So with declarative policies, these customers can set VPC block public access to true and rest easy so that no users, service linked roles, or future APIs can facilitate public access in AWS. Nobody's getting in, kids. That's what that means. And unlike access control policies, which can leak information to those without permissions. End users see custom error messages configured by their organization's administrator, redirecting them to an internal resource or support channel.
Right.
So you ended up somewhere you shouldn't have been. And then you get a note that says, hey, here's where you need to go, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what that's saying to you. This reduces operational complexity for governance, and that's a good thing.
It's a huge thing, Joe. I mean, I think in all the conversations, whether, when we were in Vegas at reInvent or any conversations that we have with any client anywhere, complexity is the beast that everybody's struggling with and trying to get arms around. So anything that reduces operational complexity, especially on the governance front, which is so vital, is really music to my ears. So I'm super glad to say this. And I want to talk a little bit about networking. And, who says networking isn't sexy? Not these tech nerds, that's for sure. It certainly is sexy if it's secure. And that's what we're excited about AWS Verified Access. So AWS Verified Access provides secure access to corporate applications and resources without a VPN. And it got some additional lipstick, if you will, at reInvent in its abilities to support secure access to resources over non-HTTPS protocols. So what does that mean in English? Well, it means that you can establish uniform, contextually aware access policies across your corporate applications and resources. So verified access evaluates each access request in real time, making sure access is granted only to users who meet specific identity and device security requirements. Okay, I'm a huge fan. It also eliminates the need for separate VPNs or bastion hopes. It streamlines operations and it reduces the risks of overprivileged access. This is zero trust network access, folks, and you know how we feel about how important this is. And so now, Joe, why don't you bring us home as we talk about one additional AWS reInvent 2024 security update that's on our radar screens?
I sure will. But before I jump in, I just want to make note that I bet you none of our analyst brethren will have mentioned network
Networking is sexy.
and lipstick in the same sentence. I'm fairly sure.
Okay.
So, you know,
That's why we need women covering this
I
stuff. We
know
bring some
I'm just
important
saying a little bit of
perspectives,
a
Joe.
unique take here. So one of the principles that I learned as a young engineer was keep it simple. And Amazon OpenSearch service integrated with Amazon Security Lake seeks to do just that. It's a new way to in-place query and analyze logs in Security Lake that minimizes the need to duplicate the data and reduces operational overhead of managing custom data pipelines. So you can directly query your Security Lake data, saving the cost of moving that data. And one of the beauties of the platform is that it uses the Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework, better known as OCSF, to help with threat hunting and investigation scenarios. And what I'm seeing is that customers are moving, if they're not already there, they have a plan to get to OCSF
Right.
because then it's a common language. And so when you need fast and frequent access to a subset of your data, you can optionally boost query performance by enabling additional accelerations such as indexed views and dashboards. Say you've got to present something to the execs. There's
Right.
dashboards in Amazon OpenSearch service.
I love it. I think it's incredibly cool. And I really like, when we talk about moving data, that's not what you really want to do if you don't have to. So being able to query your data and save the cost of moving that data, I think that's really what stood out to me as something that's particularly attractive. And then of course there's, the fast and frequent access to it and all of that sort of thing. I mean, this is really cool. So, as we wrap, to recap the updates at AWS reInvent 2024, the security updates that we're most excited about, you've got Scalable AWS Identity and Access Management that allows users to manage user identities, permissions, and includes features like access control policies and MFA. You've got AWS CloudTrail, which allows users to monitor and record account activity across all your AWS accounts. And CloudTrail can help improve overall security posture, provide audit functionality for proof of compliance. It's really sweet. Amazon GuardDuty's extended threat detection with new AI ML capabilities that correlate security signals to identify active account sequences in the AWS environment. Gets a big thumbs up from us. Way to go, Ryan and team. AWS declarative policies that declare and enforce the desired configuration for a given AWS service at scale across an organization with just a few clicks and commands is quite cool. AWS verified access provides secure access to corporate applications and resources without a VPN. And Amazon OpenSearch Secure integrated with Amazon Security Lake is a new way to in-place query, analyze logs in Security Lake, minimizing the need to duplicate data, reducing operational overhead of managing custom data pipelines, which I know will be music to so many people's ears, and allows for the queries of those data. And then, of course, helping save costs related to moving data, which is also really important to people. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Security Square. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hit that subscribe button if you've not yet done it, and we'll see you here next time.